So this is 2023, and this is the very first edition for my weekly LinkedIn newsletter. And I have the privilege of interviewing my friend and client, Mark Goodstein. And through us working together, we really got to know each other's business. I got to, dig deep into your business, understand why you do it, who you do it for, who you serve, and what problems that you solve. And I just couldn't help but be inspired by it. So Mark, you're a recruiter, you're the founder of Techpros, and you've also started consulting and kind of coaching people, tech talent, right, to go into that next level of career or success in their lives and help them with that whole process. But you bring a unique perspective because you've been the founder of Techpros since 1998, right? So
Yes,
lots of recruiting experience. Plus now you've seen so many years of that and worked with so many different kinds of people that you can help so many people right now in the United States that are struggling to find a really good tech job, can't you?
absolutely, Tara. And by the way, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this and to interview. And I really enjoy working with you, and I've
Thank
loved
you so
getting to
much.
know you, and it's just been a great experience. And I
Thank
highly
you.
recommend you to anyone.
Oh, I appreciate
You've
that.
just been so you've just been so great. So
Oh, wonderful.
so why don't I just start off? I just want to introduce myself, and so I am an attorney. I practiced law. And to make a long story short, I just had an aha moment. I was working for a law firm. I was in the basement writing briefs. I left the office. I was carrying law books under my arm, and it was raining. I was in a suit. I was in a trench coat. I had an umbrella, and all the law books fell into a puddle. And that was my aha moment. At the same time, I had connected with someone who had a placement company for legal secretaries, and that's how I learned about the recruiting business, and it just fascinated me. And what I loved about it was an opportunity to meet people, to network. Um, that's really where I that's really what I love doing, networking. It was more of you create something from nothing kind of a business, and it was commission based, and I was very excited to do it. I decided to focus on the software industry because at the time it was emerging, and that's what I've been doing ever since. I worked for someone for, I don't know, 8 years. She was my mentor. Um, that's how I learned the recruiting business. And then I went off and started my own company, Techpros. So
Awesome.
yeah, our clients are software companies that range in size from startups to publicly traded. I love recruiting, but at the same time, having been doing this, I've interviewed so many people, and I've debriefed so many people, and I've gotten feedback from companies, and I can't say, well, I've seen everything, but I can say that I've seen a lot. And
Imagine.
I've always been, as a recruiter, I've always been a full service recruiter and feel that it's very important. It was always been very important for me to give feedback to candidates that I know all too often they don't get feedback, and I feel that they should get feedback. And so I made it a point to get feedback from my client companies to give to them if for some reason it wasn't a match. And I just amassed a great deal of knowledge and expertise. But the piece that I really enjoy helping people learn how to interview. Um,
Yeah.
and I've gotten great responses from people when they said to me, "Oh my God, I just didn't see that. I just didn't realize that." And just sometimes minor tweaking, um, can be a major game changer,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And so I can help people, understand. People come to me all the time, and with a resume, and they just don't know what to do. And I can help them understand the whole process from, from beginning to end, how your resume is a sales tool, how, how you need to look at your job search. The first part is strategic. The second part is tactical. How to interview, right? How to approach interviewing, what good interviewing is and what good interviewing isn't. You know, how to ask for feedback during the interview, how to,
Yeah.
and then how to move through the process all the way through to the end. I can help with offer, salary negotiation. But I always believe that when you go on an interview, you should know at the end of the interview whether or not you were the right fit. And
Right.
and I can help people figure that out. And I also believe it's important for people to really be mindful when they're applying for positions, what they're applying for, and what the reaction could possibly be. And I can help them, again, look at their resume as a sales tool, right? And target opportunities that are better matches, rather than getting frustrated because it's just so easy today to send a resume
I know. I
and
know.
not get any response at all. And then lastly, I can help them understand the power of networking and their network, and how to tap into people that they know to help them, and make sure they're networking with the right people in their network, and how they're going about approaching these people. So I can help in so many different ways, and I love doing it. And I always, it makes me feel good when I get the response of, oh my, wow, you just like opened my eyes to something that I didn't see. And to help people make their job search process, effective, it makes me feel good.
Absolutely. It's solving so many problems because honestly, I see the same thing every day. I've never recruited, I've never been a career strategist, never have claimed to be. But you know what? I see so many people just on LinkedIn alone with green banners, right? And I've talked to them and they've said, "Oh, I've just applied to about 200 jobs." And I think in my mind, what's your strategy, right? Do you have a strategy? Because so many times, I mean, like you said, you could apply to 100 jobs a day if you wanted to, but ultimately, is that going to get you the result that you're trying for? And I think most of the time it doesn't. We're kind of shooting at the dark, but it's not a strategy. It might not be aligned with what we even want. And then if we do get the job, what are we going to do on that? Or if we do get the interview, what are we going to do on that interview? And if we don't have a third party perspective, by working with somebody like you, a lot of the times we're repeating the same failure over and over again that we just don't see ourselves, don't you think?
It's so true, Tara. I believe in, I also think it's psychologically, debilitating,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And also I think for some people, a sense of panic sets in, and, we all need to work. We all need to make money. We all need a job, right? And that's the first thing that comes into people's heads, especially when they get laid off, which I see a lot, I see a lot. And then they just, they jump into it, and they take the same resume they had from 15 years ago, and
Yeah.
they, and
Yeah.
they add to it. Okay. You wouldn't, it's like putting, a wrapper around a 1998 car. Wouldn't, so you need to re-architect your resume. You can't do that, but people do. And then the resume is very, very factually based, very factually based. It
Mhm.
basically just says, this is what I do. And it's, and that's not an effective sales tool,
Wow.
right?
I like that.
That's
You
not an
mentioned
effective
that.
sales tool.
Yeah.
But back to sending out, let's say, you're panicked, you take that resume that's really not that effective, and you send your resume out to 25 companies, right? And you don't get one response,
Mm.
right? And you don't know why.
Yeah.
And And the answer can be something, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, the answer can be simple, right? It's better to target 5 companies and spend more time tweaking your resume to target those opportunities than it is to send your resume out to 25 companies and not get any responses. And that's something that I can help with. But again, even more importantly, you want to feel good about what you're doing, and and not feel a sense of helplessness when you think you're doing it the right way, but you're not getting results. So that's something, if I can help somebody get to that point, even if they weren't getting interviews, now they're getting interviews and they're going on interviews, that's a step in the right direction, right? And what do you think?
I think that's right on target, but this is what I preach all the time about personal branding. People come to me and they say, do I need to build a personal brand? Well, you already have one, it exists. It's, the strategy you put behind it, just like anything else, right? It's the strategy that saves you time, saves you frustration. It gets you in front of your target audience. But like you were saying, using a resume as a sales tool, we sometimes forget we're always selling something, even if it's our personal brand, if it's our time in exchange for a salary. We're selling our time in exchange for a salary, right? So using a resume as a sales tool, treating ourselves like we're a business, targeting, using strategy, getting a third-party perspective on things like interviewing style, mannerisms, how we answer questions. All of these things line up to increase success, but not just landing a job. This would be getting more money, right? Getting a better career, better promotion, a higher position. I mean, this could lead you up to so many other things. We're not wasting our time and we're getting into these higher positions quicker. So it's so crucial. I love that.
Thank you. And there's no question that, when people don't realize this, but when they're building their careers, it's kind of like a pyramid, and you're building on top of it. And it's very important to think about the choices that you're making in your job search, because if you decide to make a lateral move into something else, you're not increasing your marketability. You're starting all over again.
Wow.
Right? So it's very important to be mindful of that when you're in the strategic part of your job search, in terms of what opportunities are going to yield the highest income, because your value is in your experience and your expertise.
Absolutely. I see that happen so much, Mark. I see it happen. And I just talked to somebody just last week. And as I was talking to her, and again, I'm not a career strategist, but I said, well, what kind of jobs are you applying for? And she listed them around. I said, you should be applying for director roles, not management roles. And when I said that, it was like a light bulb went off. And I said, you have so much experience. You're not targeting, you're not selling yourself appropriately to your target market, to your target client. Again, we don't think of ourselves as a business sometimes, but if you're looking for a job and you have a target company that you want to work for, again, think of it as it's a business exchange, but sometimes you have to work with a professional that understands the industry, right? And you've worked with these companies since 1998. You know what they're looking for. You know what kind of people they hire. You know what kind of cultures they want in their employees. You know all of this stuff on the back end, so you have the entire perspective of the industry.
Thank you. And there's no question, I've placed people at all levels, from individual contributor through executive.
Yeah.
And so I do have a good sense, at this point, having sent so many people on interviews, of, as I mentioned earlier, of getting the feedback and being able to help people with that feedback. It's a lot of times I'm amazed. The same things come up continually in terms of the do's and don'ts of interviewing. And sometimes it's a simple, it's a simple, error that many people do, and they don't realize, and they continue to do that over and over again on the interview. But I think I mentioned to you the other day, I had someone interview last week. And by the way, I mean, I'm still recruiting. I'm still giving and getting feedback. And so I'm still in the trenches,
Oh yeah.
knowing what is going on today. But so I had someone interview, and I wasn't representing the person that went on the interview. And he went on the interview, and didn't one thing he didn't do was he didn't do his homework on the company.
Yeah.
And that's a simple thing,
Yeah.
an easy thing to do. And all he had to do was review the website, and and think of some questions, and maybe look at the person he was going to be meeting with, or the people that he was going to be meeting with,
Yeah.
on LinkedIn, and see what their backgrounds were. So it's just this little tricks, that people, and it's no one's fault, right? Because everyone has a different area of expertise. And I mean, I don't understand what's going on when I take my car into the repair shop,
Right.
right? I mean, it's kind of like that. I don't,
Yeah.
you do such a great job at branding and marketing. I don't understand that, but this is something that is near and dear to me, and that I really embrace and believe in.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's just an example of
Yeah.
little things that people can do.
I agree. So often, LinkedIn is a great tool to get to know people, right? So definitely before your interview, you want to make sure you look people up on LinkedIn, connect with them, right? It wouldn't hurt also, another thing, and let me get your opinion about this. The thank you note post interview. Do people still do that?
People do. Um, I'm 50-50
What do you
on it.
think?
I'm
Yeah.
50-50 on it.
50/50.
Okay. Okay. And the reason I'm 50-50 is because I feel like if you did a great job on the interview, the company wants you.
It's
So
true.
it doesn't really matter whether you write a thank you note or you don't. They're not going to not take next steps with you if you did a great job because
True.
you
True.
didn't write a thank you note. It's
Right.
nice to write one. But just remember, if you're going to write a thank you note, have it have some meaning. In other words, don't just say thank you, it was a pleasure meeting you. Um, say something about why you feel you're a fit for the position.
Reaffirm it.
Reaffirm that in the note, and then make sure that there's no typos. Because I've had people send thank you notes and get into trouble because of the
Mhm.
thank you notes, and you don't want to be in that position either. So I think it's a nice thing to do. I don't think it's icing. Let's call it icing on the cake, but
Yeah.
it's not the cake.
You're right. Yeah, that's good to remember and keep in mind too.
But I also think it depends upon what industry you're in too. I mean,
Right.
I think some industries, they do look for the thank you note,
Mm.
you
See, that's
know.
that's good to know. Yeah.
So I can't really speak to that. I know in software, if you made it through all the hoops of the technical part of the interview, and if it's a managerial role, the managerial, if you are exactly what they're looking for,
Right.
and it's a match, then it's less important. They're not going to ding you on that, at least in the software industry space.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. And another thing I really just thought of, again, working with somebody like yourself on career strategy and coaching, 90% of human communication is actually nonverbal. So, sometimes it's not what we say every time. We might be super technical, have, a lot of hard skills, but sometimes it's the physical communication, the nonverbals, right? Or something that we do again that we're just not conscious of. But again, talking to somebody like you kind of helps iron out those things and just bring them to light. Again, just help people acknowledge that they're happening so that they can correct these problems. Because again, it's, with one of the things that you would do different, again, because you've been in this industry for so long, is, again, how these companies think and operate. And you know what they're looking for in an interview. It's not a mystery anymore. So that's so important.
No, no, I'm glad you brought that up because I do give people, again, I always ask their permission
Right.
if they're, I don't want to offend anyone, but if they're up for constructive feedback. And I think that that's where people get a big bang for the buck with me because I'm not afraid to tell people things
Yeah.
about how they're coming across, how they're interviewing. But as you said, the physical and verbal,
Yeah.
the way that we communicate, eye contact, making eye contact. Some people don't make eye contact, but there's sometimes people have a certain style that is hurting them on an interview, and sometimes it's easy to fix. And I love when people say to me, "Oh my God, no one's ever said that to me before." And it's so true. Or
Yeah.
they say, I knew that,
Yeah.
and my spouse, keeps telling me that, but I didn't listen. And and I get that a lot too. And they'll say, you're absolutely right. I do that. I need to work on it.
Yeah.
So those are things that I can also help with, which I think is, it's invaluable. And if I can help somebody who's struggling or doesn't know what to do in the interview process, if I can help them um, and tweak that, so that they can interview more effectively and actually land a position somewhere, that makes me feel good. That's um, that's a I feel like I've been um, I've been able to help somebody. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I love that. But, I want to go back to the beginning of our conversation. You mentioned you were an attorney and then it was a rainy night. It sounds like a movie. I like that. It's like a movie scene. It was a rainy night and you dropped all of your law books into a puddle. So that was like a sign for you that you needed to change careers. And again, I know so many people that are going to be watching this interview and reading this newsletter. They're, maybe there's a sign that they're, not acknowledging to change careers. So I'd like to, just kind of transition and cap off this newsletter with maybe some inspiration on how to know when it's okay to change careers or industries, um, or any kind of entrepreneurial advice that you have.
sure. So for me, that's great. So for me, I just I had already started talking
Mhm.
to a friend of mine who had
Mhm.
a placement company, and he educated me on that business. And I was practicing law, and I was just not satisfied.
It wasn't
I
you. It
felt
didn't feel like you.
I felt like it didn't suit me.
Yeah.
So for example, when I practiced law, I used to love to go to networking events and meet people and make connections, make business connections through networking events.
Mhm.
And when I learned about the recruiting business, I thought, wow, that's exactly what I love doing. And when I thought about practicing law, I thought, I don't, it's very technical for me. It's very tedious. It's
Yeah.
writing briefs. It's making sure that I's and T's are dotted and crossed, right? And it wasn't as exciting for me. And so I was thinking about the recruiting business, and
Mhm.
then that when I had that aha moment, when I was sitting, I was working at a law firm in Boston, and I, and the office was on the wharf, on the water, and it had like several levels, and I had my office in the basement, and it was a stone wall,
Oh
and
gosh.
no windows. I know it's not always like that for lawyers, but and then I thought about this other business which seemed exciting to me, and I just the and I had to, it was so formal. I had to wear a suit and, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
was so dressed up, and, um, so the puddle just was the catalyst. So it wasn't that, you know, it wasn't that I just, I dropped all the law books in the puddle on the way home, and, and said, what am I
Yeah.
going to do? I had
Yeah.
already thought about becoming a recruiter.
That's
So,
interesting, though. That's interesting, though. It just shows you that you have to listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, follow your passion, follow what you feel like your purpose is, what drives you, right? What gets you out of bed?
mhm.
Because ultimately, no matter what, again, career we end up in, it's what we're passionate about, that really makes the difference. And that's ultimately what turns a job into something that you love doing too. There's no reason, and it's not written anywhere that says we have to do something we hate, right? We can do something we love.
No, there's no question. I mean, you want to be in a position where you're in a profession where you want to be the best at it,
Yeah.
where you want to excel at it, and you're willing to go to web seminars and webinars, and
Yeah.
and keep up with your craft,
Yeah.
to be the best at what you can be. And you have to have that spark. There has to be some spark that makes you feel like, what, I'm good at this, and I really want to run with it for that reason.
I love that. Such good advice for entrepreneurs out there. But that's perfect. Mark, how can people get a hold of you? What is the best way they can get in touch with you?
Sure. They can email me. My email is markg at techprosinc, techprosinc.com. They can come to my website, which is techprosinc.com. Or if they want to call me, my phone number is 617-965-1516.
Perfect. So anybody watching this right now, if you're in the tech industry, and again, there's lots of people out there looking for jobs, especially in tech in the United States right now. I know in 2022 there was over 70,000 plus tech workers that lost their jobs. So there's a huge need for this. We're just trying to spread awareness and help a lot of people with this newsletter and with this message. So get in touch with Mark. He can help. And again, he brings to light things that you may not have ever realized about your interview style or self that he can actually help you with. And he's also a recruiter for the tech industry. So utilize him as a resource. There's no point, stabbing in the dark and figuring all of this out on your own. It's an overwhelming process. It does pay to work with somebody like Mark that has a lot of years of experience. So I hope this message resonates with each one of you. But thank you so much for the interview today, Mark. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you, Tara. And I also meant to mention, I have a great new webpage, where people can reach me and book a meeting through my through my LinkedIn profile.
Yes,
Thanks to you,
absolutely.
Tara.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
but I can't thank you enough for this meeting today. It's been a pleasure. I'm grateful, and I hope to hear from people out there as well.
Absolutely. So much. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark. And I appreciate you being on the first edition of my 2023 newsletter. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Tara.